Access to Democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Thomson Reuters, The Answer Company. The division championship Minnesota Twins are looking to go all the way to the World Series in 2024. Bolstered by inspirational shortstop Carlos Correa, a healthy Brian Buxton, and rookie phenom Royce Lewis, plus a pitching staff led by Pablo Lopez and an outstanding bullpen featuring Johan Duran, the Twins are the best bargain in the major leagues, and Target Field is the best venue in baseball. Established in 2007, 45th Parallel Spirits was among the first 50 micro-distilleries in the United States. Based in New Richmond, Wisconsin, all aspects of production occur at our facility. If you're interested in visiting and learning more about the 45th Parallel Distillery, please check our website and plan a visit to tour our facility and taste our spirits. Truestone Financial, with locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin, has proudly served its members since 1939. Truestone engages, educates, and supports its members to ensure they have the tools to empower their financial well-being. Truestone Financial, your neighborhood credit union. Learn more at truestone.org.
Welcome to Access to Democracy. Thank you for joining us. I'm Bill Raker, your host for this edition of the program. Today we're welcoming as our guest on Access to Democracy, Lisa Lovernly. Lisa is the Senior Financial Exploitation Investigator for the Minnesota Department of Commerce. And Lisa, we have you here today to talk with us about fraud and scams and how the Department of Commerce at Minnesota gets involved with those things. But before we do that, tell our viewers a little bit about what the Department of Commerce really is, what its mission is, and a little bit about your background and your role at the department.
So the Department of Commerce is there basically to protect consumers in the state of Minnesota. So we regulate over 40 different industries in the state, including real estate, insurance, weights and measures, insurance brokers, investments, that kind of thing. We also license over 250,000 professionals and businesses throughout the state of Minnesota. But it's to ensure that there's a fair and marketable and equitable business practices across the state of Minnesota.
Well, that's a pretty important role for the department and significant to the citizens who live here. Just could you give us an idea about how large that department is from a staffing standpoint?
There's a lot of different people who have a variety of different roles in there. So there's approximately 10 different divisions that we have within there. And I'm under the Community Affairs Division. And my role is a newer division as well under that. It's under the Senior Exploitation under the Safe Seniors Act.
Well, tell us how you got involved in the particular investigative role that you have with the department.
So I come with a background from law enforcement. So I retired from law enforcement where I was on patrol, I was an investigator, and I did a lot with our senior population in my community. And I did a lot of investigations of frauds and scams. And working with our seniors, I had a passion for helping our seniors. And when this position opened up, I thought it was a perfect fit for something that I had experienced in.
Well, we're very fortunate, I think, to have folks like you who are interested in trying to prevent crimes from happening in the first place, and then in the event that there is an infraction of the law, to do an investigation, to find the guilty person and to see that they're persecuted or prosecuted. I know you don't do the prosecution, you do the investigation part of it. But this is a newer department, a newer part of the Department of Commerce. When did it come into existence, and what are some of the key things that you look at in your role there?
So this is new. It's only a few years old, and it comes into effect because of a new statute that was passed under Chapter 45A, which allows us to work with banks and law enforcement and adult protection in the investigation of frauds and scams. So because we regulate banks in the state of Minnesota, we're able to work in a a team, a cooperative role to try and investigate these. But Chapter 45A also allows us to place holds on bank accounts so that we can help people over the age of 65 or vulnerable adults with frauds or scams or someone who may be exploiting them financially.
So as we talk more about specifically about some of the scams and the kind of fraudulent activities that you investigate, you can probably give us some more insight into what your investigation actually entails when you're looking into some of those. So let's get into that. What are some of the scams that are trending, maybe not just here in Minnesota, but nationally, that you're seeing and investigating and trying to help citizens not become a victim, or if they have become a victim, maybe you have a different kind of help that you provide them?
So probably one of the most popular scams that we see right now are business imposters or spoofing calls. We're getting a lot of reports from seniors who are thinking they're doing the right thing, and they're clicking on links and they're going to scammers. So I had a victim last week who something was wrong with her computer, and she went to Google and Googled Geek Squad, and she called the very first number, and it was not the Geek Squad. They got into her computer and they started transferring money out of her financial accounts. She realized right away and was able to take it physically to someone to go and fix the computer for her. But we're seeing it in emails. They're coming across in emails with legitimate businesses, but they're using those names, saying that your membership has expired, or that you're expecting a package or something like that. And it may look like it's coming from the post office or UPS, but it's really a scammer trying to get your information. So people really need to just verify the information that they're clicking on or that they're reading to make sure that it really is coming from that business, to make sure that they're not going to lose their money.
That's such an important point, and let's talk just a little bit more about this. So I have a problem with my computer and I want to get some help, and typically I look to the Geek Squad or something like that. But your illustration shows that it's not safe to just go Google Geek Squad.
Correct.
Or just to Google Amazon, or just to Google U.S. Post Office. How does one make sure that they're getting to the right place?
A lot of it is you have to verify what the extension is, what that web address is, or what that email is. Is it at ups.com? Is it, at wellsfargo.com? Is it really that address? Make sure that that's where what you're clicking on, and that's where it's taking you. Because if it's a scammer, it's taking you to a different extension. And we're seeing right now the top 3 responses in Google are not going to be the correct website that you want to be taken to. So you really don't want to click on the very first thing. You want to make sure that it is the right one. So you might want to scroll down a little bit and look to see that it is the correct place that you're really calling.
That is such important and valuable advice, and I think I'm going to repeat it so that our viewers make sure that they understand this nuance. If you want to Google Geek Squad or get in contact with Geek Squad, enter into the search bar into your browser geeksquad.com.
Correct.
Or enter in amazon.com into the search bar. That'll take you directly to the legitimate website.
Correct.
And as you said, if you don't do that, the first 2, 3, sometimes it's even 4 or 5 more entries that will pop up on your screen are not the site you want to go to.
Right.
I mean, their paid positioning on Google.
Yes.
That's where Google gets its ad money.
Yes.
The more money you pay Google, the higher up on the search list you or your company is going to appear.
Right. Yep.
That's how that works, and I don't think a lot of people understand that.
Right.
Okay? And some of those paid ads that pop up before you really get to google.com or amazon.com or microsoft.com may be legitimate, They're just advertising under a similar name to draw you off to their website to sell you something else.
Yes.
But the greater risk is that they might be a scammer.
Right.
Okay, and I think that's the point you're trying to share with us.
Exactly. Well, and we've even had victims where, you know, they just get something that pops up on their computer and it says it's from Microsoft, and you have to call them right away to fix your computer and don't shut it down. But they want you to call, and it's a scam. And they also will get into your computer and try and take your money as well. So I tell people, if you get that, shut it down right away. Bring it to a professional. Go have your computer, you know, have them scan it. Get the antivirus software on there to make sure that you're protecting yourself and that nobody did get into your computer. And make sure you're checking your bank accounts. Check your statements often to make sure that someone isn't transferring money out of your accounts.
All great advice, Lisa. You know, let's generalize it just a little bit more. It's very likely, very probable that any kind of pop-up that comes up on your screen is not legitimate.
Correct.
Okay? No legitimate business is going to try to get your attention by putting a pop-up on the screen and asking you to call a number or to click on a link.
Right.
So be wary of those kinds of things.
Right.
I see those kinds of warnings occasionally when I'm out on my computer. It says, you know, call this number immediately. It starts making all kinds of sounds. Don't shut your computer down. You may lose everything that's on your computer if you do. Well, I've quickly figured out that shutting down my computer is exactly the thing I want to do immediately.
That's exactly what you want to do, and it scares you. That's what they use. They use that threat of fear and trying to catch you off balance. To make you second guess yourself. Should I be shutting off my computer or not? And so people don't want to shut it off because they think that they're really in trouble. But that's exactly what they should do, is shut it off.
Yeah, you're going to be much safer if you do that and then start all over again. And you will find out that there's probably nothing wrong with your computer to begin with.
Exactly,
right?
yes.
But you also mentioned something else about if you're operating a computer to have legitimate and up-to-date antivirus protection and anti-malware and those kinds of things. You help people figure that out too? Well,
I usually will just tell people, because I work with people across the state and I don't know what all the resources that they have in their communities. So I do just tell them, bring it physically to a legitimate place that you can physically talk to someone and not just someone over the phone, so you may not end up with another scammer. You don't want to pass them from one scammer to the other. So I usually refer them to someone local, tell them, find a computer repair person or your cell phone person, someone that you can go in and talk to. And a lot of our people over 65, that's how they want to do business, is they want to do face-to-face business. And I tell them, don't give money to someone if you don't know them either. So it's the same with their computer. Make sure that you actually go and talk to someone physically to fix your computer.
So tell us more about some of the other types of scams and fraudulent activities that you have investigated or that are working out there right now.
So romance scams are really popular as well. We're seeing those where scammers are grooming people to believe that they are, 4-star generals, that they're on an oil rig, that they're a movie star. And if you send them money, that they will come and you'll be married and you'll live happily ever after. And some of our seniors are lonely and they're isolated. And these scammers tell them that this is their secret and not to tell anybody about it, and they're sending a lot of money. They're selling their homes. They're believing that they're going to move across the country to go be with these people. But what they don't realize is these scammers have about 30 other people they're doing the same thing to, and they're trying to take all of their money. It's really hard in the romance scams to convince these people that it's a scam and that it's not true. Because the scammers have told them everybody else is lying to them and that they're the honest person. So those ones are really hard. Another scam or fraud that we see, unfortunately, is people who have access to a senior's money, such as through a power of attorney. So they're misusing grandma's funds. They're taking her credit card, or they're going up to the casino and using their Social Security up there. So we get involved in the financial exploitation as well. So, making sure that we're looking out for our older family members and trying to help them as much as we can. I know sometimes they don't want us involved in their finances, but we need to have someone there to help them as well.
And it's good that the department is there and that folks like you are there to offer that kind of help for them. Lisa, I've been reading recently some articles about scams related to fake job offers and fake employment scams. Do you have any reports of things like that happening in your area?
Well, I don't really get that much because I do work with seniors, but we do see, we've heard of those with the fake job offers, and it's the same thing like we were talking about on websites. People are clicking on job offers or on Craigslist ads for jobs, and if you have to send money to get a job, it's not going to be a legitimate job. So people are sending because it says you need a $100 application fee, and you need to send money for this or that, whatever their excuse is. It's not going to be a legitimate job offer.
Which is a good warning for people to be aware of.
Right.
You gave us an example of this technology-related scam where someone gets a pop-up on their screen and tells them that, not to shut their computer down. Do you have some examples that you can cite of other types of fraud that you have investigated?
I've had one that I'm thinking of. The people used that they said they were from Excel Energy, and the lady believed that there was something, with that, and she ended up sending some money. But then those people also got into her computer because they were telling her there was something wrong with her computer, which actually there was something wrong with her internet. And so she believed it was a legitimate thing. Mm-hmm. Only when her financial advisor contacted her about a transfer of some of her stocks that was occurring did she find out that they were actually in her computer and they were moving her stocks. They were trying to sell stocks, and she was flagged right away about that. So,
well, that's another example of things that scammers might be after.
Right.
We talked about how obvious it is that they're after money.
Yes.
Right. Which could include access to your bank account or your brokerage account. What about identity theft? Anything that you can share with us in that area?
Well, we do see some identity theft. I had one gentleman that had his identity stolen, and the person created a whole nother bank account using that person's name and was able to transfer money out of the gentleman's account and into the fraudulent account. And it was a substantial amount of money that was lost by the person. So that was actually turned over to law enforcement to investigate.
And we could probably talk a long time about the different types of scams
right.
and the new twist on the old scam and those kinds of things. Can you share with us, though, Lisa, what can you or the Department of Commerce do to help someone who contacts you and says, I've been scammed, or I think I've been scammed? What does that process look like?
So it depends. Each case is different. Every single one is a little bit different. So we get a lot of our reports from adult protection, from banks, and from law enforcement. Our banks are our front lines to a lot of these transactions that happen, and sometimes they happen in our people over 65 don't even know that they've happened yet, and we're able to stop the flow of the money. So we're able to put a hold on their bank account until we can put some other process in place to help the seniors so that they don't lose any more money. So whether the investigation is going to involve law enforcement and or adult protection, if that would be appropriate for that person or not, but we will work with the banks to make sure that no more money is being sent to the scammers. Sometimes our seniors don't believe that they're being scammed. They totally believe that they're going to win the Publishers Clearinghouse if they just send another $1,000. They believe that this person that says that they love them is going to be coming to their home if they just send another $3,000. But we're able to stop that and put a hold on their bank account until we can work with them and tell them this is a scam and you're losing your money. And maybe it's the bank getting their family involved or getting some other person in place so that we can help them so that they can understand what's going on so that they don't lose any more money.
Well, let's explore that just a little bit further, because that's really an important function or ability that your department has to prevent greater losses in frauds. So, a fraud victim is not very likely to recognize that they're being victimized, and they're going to want to continue to send money because they're under this emotional state where they think something, it's either fear or love or something like that. But a caretaker of a person or a family member of a person who the caretaker or the family member sees this other person potentially being victimized, okay, and they can't convince them that they are a victim of a scam. That caretaker or that family member can call you and say, I got a situation here, I need your help.
Yes.
So that's how the intervention can really take place, and how you can step in and really be helpful before there's too much more loss of financial, their money or their assets, or their mental state, because once you realize, particularly in a romance scam, that, hey, this wasn't a romance at all, it's literally heartbreaking.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and we work with the banks, and so we would put a hold. It's 15 business days that we would put that on, and that would give us that time to get those other people or processes in place. During that time, the senior can still pay their bills. They can still get groceries. They can still get gas. They can pay their rent or their assisted living or their mortgage, whatever they need to be. Their daily living is covered, is allowed under that. So we don't put all their money on hold.
Okay.
It's just they can't take out $1,000 to send on their romance scam or something like that. So we work with the banks under what that criteria looks like, and everyone is different because some are withdrawing large sums of cash, some are taking out cashier's checks, some are just using a debit card inappropriately. So we're able to work with the bank and whatever that guideline is, we'll work with them. If we need more time, we can, under the statute, extend that time for another 10 business days. It doesn't happen often that we have that done, because usually we can get something taken care of within the 15 business days, but it is allowed under the statute. But we're still able to let them pay their daily expenses.
Well, it's fortunate that you have this authority to work with banks and credit unions, by the way, too.
Correct. Yeah. Financial institutions.
Financial institutions, yes. Banks, credit unions, wherever people have their checking account, their debit card or credit card. Lisa, we're coming into the final few minutes of our program today. Are there any messages that's important that our viewers need to know that you'd like to share with us?
Well, number one is just verify. Verify, verify, verify. Make sure that if the person says that they are who they want you to believe, make sure you're double checking that. I mean, you can search Facebook, you can search on the internet and see, these people on the romance scams, they've got 30 other women and their Facebook profiles are fake. They're stealing pictures off of the internet. Make sure when you think you're calling a business that it is the legitimate business. Or if a business calls you and it pops up as a legitimate business, but you're not quite sure it is who they say it is, say you'll have to call them back. And then you can look up the real number and see if you can call back and see if it really was. So don't be sending money to someone that you do not know. And that's probably the biggest thing, because people think that they know people and they don't.
Right. You mentioned something that's very important when you talk about verify, verify, verify. And we talked earlier about maybe there's a pop-up screen that comes up when you're on your computer, or maybe you get an email, or you might get a text message that looks like it's from a legitimate company. I think one of the biggest financial scams right now is people getting text messages from their bank.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Saying, there's something wrong with the activity on your bank, your account, or it's been compromised or whatever. Call this number and we'll help you straighten it out and get it right. But it's very important that people not call the phone number that is in the pop-up,
right,
that's in the email, or
right,
that's in the text message, because it's not really going to take you to your bank or to your credit union.
Right. There are legitimate texts from your bank, and there are legitimate emails from your bank. But if it says that there's suspicious activity on your account, look at your account first. Is there suspicious activity on there? And if there is, call the phone number on the website, on your app, or whatever your bank is, not off of that text message, just to make sure that you're calling the right place.
Good advice. I mean, if you have a bank statement or a credit union statement, it has a number on it, or your credit card or debit card, call that number.
Right.
If you have to Google up the number, be sure that you Google up usbank.com.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
So that you go to the right place.
Right.
Don't click on the links.
No. And it's just like, with the grandparent scam. People fall for the grandparent scam as well. And I always tell people, verify. Do you know where your grandchildren are? Call your son or daughter and see where they are. Don't be sending money, because 99% of the time it's a scam.
So people who have been scammed, unfortunately, or they think they possibly been scammed, or they know someone's been scammed, should contact the department. We have the contact information, the website, as well as the phone number where they can do that.
Yes.
Anything else that you would tell our viewers in the final minute of our program?
If they report, it's confidential. So we don't tell people who's been reporting, but we will email you back and let you know that we received your report. And if we have any questions, we'll certainly contact you. And even if you have a question, you can certainly reach out to us, and we're there to help you.
That's important for our viewers to know, that it's the service to the public that the Department of Commerce here in Minnesota, that's their mission. That's who they're looking out for.
Very much so.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much. Our
Thank
guest today has been Lisa Lovering with the Department of Commerce here in Minnesota, where she's the Senior Financial Exploitation Investigator, and she shared some very important hints with us today about how to recognize scams and to stay safe from scams. So thank you for joining us on Access to Democracy.